Velocity. It's a term from Scrum, and it's a measure of how much work a team is getting through. Work, God. Right, so Scrum. It's not working. We time box our things into something called a sprint. It's usually 1 or 2 weeks in length, and in that time we're going to get a fixed amount of work done. We have a planning and estimation session at the start to decide how much we're going to be included in that, and at the end we have a retrospective where the team looks at how they've done and it tries to find improvements to bring into their process. So the planning and estimation. We look at the tasks that we need to do, and usually we assign these story points. Usually we use the Fibonacci numbers because the larger our estimate gets, the more uncertainty there is inside it, so they get big very, very fast. Now these numbers are relative. If I did a feature a few weeks ago, which is a special offer for you buy 3 of one product and get a discount, and I set up to 5, a similar feature where you buy various products and you get a discount is likely to be a 5 also. So we can compare them within teams. However, a different developer in a different team might have decided that was an 8. So you can't use these numbers to compare between teams. At the end of the sprint, we sum up all the work that's actually been completed, average this out over many sprints, and this is our velocity. Now we can use this in planning to make sure that we don't sort of over prepare. We can just do about as much work as we've done in the past. So velocity based upon the estimates that we've completed. And most people will have seen that. It's kind of our fault. We've said estimates, we've given an air of confidence, like we know what we're doing. In actual fact, it's more of a wibbly, wobbly, guessy, wessy kind of affair.
No, it's not our fault. Their fault.
Soon, a well-intentioned manager comes along and they say, understand you're doing this Scrum thing and you're measuring your work in velocity and story points, and we need to get through more work because the board needs more work done. So guys, we're going to increase your velocity and your bonuses depend on it. So we pad our estimates, we double everything, and problem solved. Any questions? It's partly true. If you're going to measure me on my velocity, or you're going to treat something as a deadline, I'm sure as hell going to pad that so I've got some contingency. And as we know, work tends to expand to fill the time available to it. So things will end up taking that a little bit longer. And it's not just in software. A few years ago, the NHS gave a target that everybody that went through A&E should be seen by a nurse within X, something, doesn't matter. So what happened? A post, an unofficial post, ended up being created. It ended up being called the Hello Nurse. What they did was, as a patient came into A&E, they went up, they said hi, they took the name, and that was it. It wasn't even like there was any triage involved. This just happened because of the target. Targets. Call centers are often driven by targets. A popular one is average call time. The poor bugger that works there isn't concerned with solving your problem. They're concerned about keeping the average call time down. So they want you off as soon as possible. You might get transferred to different departments. Or you might just end up putting the phone down before they've truly solved your problem. What this means is that a lot of people are going to call back because they actually need more help. John Seddon calls this failure demand, and it means that you just get more calls. So, that's software. What kind of dysfunctions will these targets give us? Well, we've always said padded estimates. The T will argue over what should be construed as a story point? What we should measure? Should we track bugs? Should we count bugs? Should we count rework? And the arguments last days, weeks, rather than actually working and stuff. Overtime happens because we need to increase velocity. So let's just do more work, do more time. We all know that overtime's a great thing. No, it'll kill you, literally kill you. Japanese have a word for it. That one.
Roshi.
Yeah, thanks. Ian did a talk on overtime and why it's terrible. So excuse me. We won't go into that too much. However, too much of it, you'll train your manager to expect that the overtime is working because it does in the short term. But you're not going to change the situation simply by working harder. You must do something to affect the position that you're in. Right, so we know that velocity originates as an estimate. So what's an estimate made up of? I think there's about 3 things in it. There's the size and complexity of the task itself. So I go to a building contractor and I want to make an apartment building. It's 10 stories high, standard flats. It's likely that the estimate they give me will be less than one that's 20 stories high, that has an infinity pool on the top and a water slide going down the bottom. Yeah? Yeah, size and complexity of the task, makes sense. So that will cause a higher estimate. Another one, the availability of the skills and the resources we have available. So you asked me to do something involving CSS. The estimate's going to be high because I suck at it.
It's true.
It's very true. You asked me to do something where you take away your sharpener. Again, I'm going to suck. So I'm going to need a tool to help me. The existing environment, this is basically legacy code. Everybody's got an area of the code base that's scary and they don't want to go near because the person that built it is long gone and they were insane. And that's going to lead to a higher estimate. Now the odd thing is, a lack of skill and a crappy existing environment are going to push your estimate up, which is going to lead to a higher number in your velocity, which is kind of what we want, but these are negatives. Now, let's assume that we've tackled the bottom 2. We're amazing. We have no problem doing anything. And the existing code base is just perfect. So these never factor into it. All that we've got to think about is the size and the complexity of the task. In that case, surely more is better. Not exactly. You see, in physics, velocity is a speed and a direction. As Gojo puts it, there's no point hurtling down the motorway at 100 miles an hour if you're going in the wrong direction. Why are we measuring the work so much and putting so much effort onto it? Something a little bit more like that. Wow, that was a lot quicker than I thought it'd be. I'm done. Questions? Shit. Jen,
do you find that your knowledge has increased exponentially with the growth of your beard?
People assume I know you